Hey everybody, welcome back to Bayou Time. Harry McCullough here. Spending next 7 minutes with a very interesting young man. We've heard there's no atheist in a foxhole. Well, we have a priest that's going to be a chaplain for sure, and a very interesting story. It's Daniel Duplantis, Father Daniel Duplantis. How you doing, Lieutenant Dan? Now,
Lieutenant
too, right?
Dan, yes, I'm doing phenomenal, and you're right. Lieutenant Dan has been a long-running joke the last 7 years that I've been commissioned. Yes.
Well, tell me about your story. You're 29 years old. You're from Bayou Blue. You've been around here. So you're a priest. You're about to become a chaplain with the Air Force. You've been in Taekwondo. You're writing books. So tell me a little bit about your story and what's the next chapter if we stay in book talk.
I'm going to try to be as succinct as possible for 7 minutes. But a lot of this all goes back to just growing up in Bayou Blue. The call to the priesthood would come first of all of those different things that come together for me. But just growing up in Bayou Blue, I remember being very just impressed and inspired by the priest we had growing up, and he saw the vocation in me as well. In fact, when he left Bayou Blue, Father Thomas Boudery, he gave me one of his stoles whenever he left, because he saw the vocation in at least me or my twin brother, and he was absolutely correct. In fact, he vested me and preached my first mass when I got ordained. So priesthood was always there. My family was always very supportive of it. And then from there, where the military kind of comes in, is I have both of my grandfathers served in the U.S. Air Force. And then I have an uncle who married into the family, who served 20 years as an artillery officer in the Army. And so when I entered seminary 10 years ago, he told me, he said, we really need priests on active duty. And I know you've thought about the military. I did 2 years of JROTC in high school at Central Lafourche. And he said, we really need priests, because he went on several deployments and didn't have any sacraments. So I took him seriously with that, met with the bishop. And at the time, it was Bishop Fobb. And long story short, when I met with him, he said that he had a debt to the Air Force where he owed them a priest. And so he said if he ever became a bishop, he would. It was funny because I kind of went through the list of Army chaplains, Navy chaplains, Air Force. Air Force was the last one on my list. And when I told him I was kind of stuck on the Air Force with just prayer and discernment, he said, it's funny you say that. So if you want to go Air Force, you have my blessing. And then Taekwondo, I started at 7 years old, and I've been doing it ever since. Just got my 4th degree black belt about almost 2 weeks ago, so master status now, and I still love it to this day. I think I enjoy it more now being an adult and understanding more of it, the history and where it comes from, than I did when I was 7.
Hey,
so,
maybe we'll see you in UFC down the road. You got nothing else going on. I love the book, though. What's the name of the title of the book?
The book I just published is called Jesus in the Dojo, A Christian Pedagogy of Martial Arts. And the book basically is an inspiration from just meeting a lot of martial artists that you see just around, especially in the United States, a lot of Christian martial artists. And there's this great desire to kind of, synthesize our faith with what we do. Because there's sometimes contradictions. People say you practice martial arts, does that condone violence? And so I kind of wanted to get to the bottom of that, is drawing lines, defining self-defense as a theological concept as well. Right. And so the book just came out Easter Sunday.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. So you're now working with the Air Force. You have deployments. Usually, the bishops are the ones deploying you guys wherever, your priests wherever you're going to go. But now you have a full bird commander that's calling you and telling you where to go. So where are you headed?
So I'm heading to Joint Base Elmendorf-Richardson in Anchorage, Alaska. At least that's the projection right now, and that's the phrase they always use. Man. And that was the shock of a lifetime. And in the process, my recruiter said, the assignments office may start calling you to talk about where would you like to go. I had to fill out a sheet that kind of let me list my preference of region. I didn't put anything with the Pacific Northwest. I put my first 3 options, I think the Gulf South, the East Coast, and maybe the Midwest, something like that. I didn't want to be anywhere where it snowed most of the time. And then none of the process happened the way the recruiter said. The Pacific Air Force's command chaplain, who's a priest and a full-bird colonel, calls me 2 days after Easter and says, hey, would you like to know where you're going? I said, that's been decided? And he said, yep. He said, right now we're projecting to have you go to Anchorage, Alaska. And I was shocked.
Right.
I called my mom and dad immediately afterwards. They were in shock. The whole rest of the day, I think all 3 of us were just shocked.
Yeah.
No, that's 'cause I was hoping for Biloxi. It's close to home, and I've been to Keesler Air Force Base a few times. Beautiful base, and so, but Alaska is what it's looking like right now.
It's beautiful, and look, God's going to put you there for a reason, right? And so you were drawn to this watching MASH, which again, for a young fella, we have had a couple of wars before. Then MASH was back in the 70s. So what happened when you were watching MASH?
I just remember watching reruns growing up. And, for me, who was considering the priesthood from at least as young as probably 3 or 4 years old, also considering the military, when I saw the character of Father Mulcahy, I looked at that and like the light bulb kind of went off and I said, wait, I can do both? And so it just kind of stuck with me. And I always thought that the character of Father Mulcahy, of all things, was portrayed very well as a priest. I was like, this is a guy, you could tell he's a man of prayer. He's a man who knows what his mission is in that environment and with that specific mission of the military. And that always just kind of inspired it.
Look, I mean, hopefully you're not in the middle of things in Russia and, that's where Alaska is, right? It's in between
Right.
Russia and the United States. Hopefully we're not in the military, but it's a very stressful time, I'm sure, and you can work with a lot of people, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's the mission of the Air Force is very overreaching with so many jobs that, we get to go behind the scenes as chaplains. And our airmen are very excited to, if you come as a chaplain and say, show me what you do, they're very proud of their work, and we get to see that. We get to support them in every facet of their job.
Yeah. China, and you may be deployed too? I mean,
Yes, chaplains do get deployed, and we get sent downrange just like anybody else, and we're doing essentially the same things we're doing stateside, which is, to provide services as a Catholic chaplain, to provide masses, sacraments. 90% of what we do, though, is counseling, which is greatly needed on deployments.
But if you can handle yourself.
Correct.
Your hands are registered weapons. No, we appreciate it. Well, look, we appreciate your call, man. Thanks so much, and best of luck to you. Thanks for sharing your story.
Thank you so much.
All right, we'll be right back with more Bite Time right after this.